Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Welcome to Keys to the Kingdom. I'm Marissa. I hope you're all having a wonderful Shabbat, and I hope that you can hear me. I know last time we were having some trouble with the audio, but hopefully you can hear me. I hope there's no interruption in the video. I pray that all goes well today. Amen. All right, so today we're going to be continuing our whole word study, reading the Bible. And today we're going to be in Genesis 41 through 44, verse 17. And this is basically where Joseph saves Egypt. This is the second half of Joseph's life. And this is when Joseph saves Egypt. He rises to power, and he unites with his brothers, which is kind of a beautiful moment. So I'm excited to get into this today. And, I was just thinking about a couple of things from last Shabbat in our last video, because we were talking about Judah as well. It wasn't just the life of Joseph. We saw the Bible just kind of stop in the middle of talking about the life of Joseph and started talking about it, just like cut into the middle of the Joseph story and started focusing on Judah and what was going on with Judah. And I had posed the question last week. I was asking everybody and saying, why do you think God chose the tribe of Judah, to bring the kings? Because all of the kings of Israel came from the tribe of Judah. Why did God choose the tribe of Judah to bring the kings and then ultimately the Messiah? Why was it through the tribe of Judah? Why wasn't it through the tribe of Joseph? Joseph was the one that had the dreams. He was hearing from God. He kept God's commandments, and he seemed to have so much favor. And he's the one that was chosen to save Egypt, but ultimately his family from the famine that was coming. Why didn't God choose the tribe of Joseph to bring the Messiah through? Why didn't he choose the tribe of Joseph to bring the kings through? That's a good question. But I was pondering it, and there was a few things that kind of stuck out to me because and like we were talking about when we read last week, Judah had this situation where he left his family, went to Canaan, became friends with a Canaanite, marries a Canaanite woman, has children by her, loses two of those children. And like we had talked about before, about reaping and sowing. There is this biblical law that you reap what you sow. So immediately after Judah, he was the one that decided to sell his brother into slavery. And then all the brothers lied to their father and said, oh, he was killed by animals. And then the pain that Jacob had to go through of losing not just a child, but his most favorite child, was very heart-wrenching to Jacob. And now we see Judah going to Canaan, leaving his family, and then reaping what he sowed. Because immediately, well, not immediately, but immediately in the story, Judah loses two of his sons. So for causing his father this pain of thinking that he lost his son, Judah loses two of his sons. So he did reap what he sowed, and it took a little while, but I wonder if Judah was thinking about his father when he lost the first son. Or maybe he wasn't thinking about his father, and then he lost the second son. Maybe after he lost the second son, maybe Judah was thinking, this is probably how my dad feels. This is probably how my father Israel or Jacob feels because of what I did regarding Joseph. Something to think about. And then there's something else that we saw with Judah, where he's in this situation with his daughter-in-law. Okay? She dresses up as a prostitute. He sleeps with her, impregnates her, and later on wants to burn her at the stake because they think that she has gotten pregnant out of wedlock, which basically makes her a harlot. And is going to burn her. And when she says, "Whose are these?" Speaking of his staff and his rod and his signet and his seal. Whose are these? He confesses instead of covering up his pride. So he could have lied. You know, he was in a position of power. Judah could have lied. And he chose to confess that he was wrong and that she was more righteous than he was. Tamar was it's presumed that Tamar was a Canaanite because she's living in the land of Canaan. She's married to a Canaanite. We have no other reason to believe that she's not a Canaanite. And she was shown to be more righteous than he was because he didn't keep his promise, giving her his third son out of fear. But he confessed. He confessed that he was wrong in front of everybody. He had to confess in front of everybody. And so that might be one of the things or part of the process that formed Judah into being worthy of bringing about the future kings and ultimately the Messiah through his children. And like I said, it's very interesting that God chose Judah because he procreates with Tamar, who we assume is a Canaanite, and it's through her twins, one of her twins, Perez, that starts this line of the Messiah. Very interesting because we always thought, you know, these pure bloodlines, we always thought that it was, the Messiah would never come from untainted blood or untainted genetics. And, at this point, the Canaanites are basically most of them are Nephilim. We discussed the giants, how the angels mated with humans and created this giant race, this race of enormous people who were hybrid human, hybrid fallen angel. So it's very interesting that Judah was the one that was chosen, and it's through this line with him procreating with Tamar. Now, there are people who have tried to say, and this is really without any solid evidence, tried to say that Tamar was not a Canaanite, and that she couldn't have possibly been a Canaanite because otherwise the Messiah would not have come through her. But we don't see that in the scriptures. So, and she's married to a Canaanite. She's living in the land of Canaan. So where could she have come from? But it's very possible that she was. All that aside, now we're going to see. Now the Bible's going to fast forward and go back to Joseph in the land of Egypt. And we're going to see what happens with Joseph and the reuniting of his brothers. Before we do that, I just want to make sure, can everybody hear me? Is everybody having an okay time hearing me? Because I just want to make sure that I'm not... I want to make sure that the video's not breaking up. We were having some technical difficulties last time, and I just want to be sure that the video is clear, that it's not breaking up. So if you could let me know in the comments if you can hear me okay, and if the video is going well before we start reading. And then we're going to get into Genesis chapter 41. Like I said in the past videos, I'm really hoping... okay, Kelly says I can hear you. Great. Thank you, Kelly. And Shabbat Shalom, by the way. Glad you could make it. I don't know if I've ever seen Kelly on here before. Um, and I know this is kind of an odd time to be doing the video right smack in the middle of the day, but it doesn't matter because most of you are having to go back and watch the video after it's already been live. And Facebook is, like I said before, Facebook is giving me a lot of trouble. They're not showing any of our posts. They're not sending anything into a far reach. This video is probably not going to hardly be shown to anybody, so once again, I'll have to pay to have it shown. Or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just stop until Lighthouse comes out. Shabbat Shalom, Kelly. But Lighthouse is going to be coming out, and we're going to be switching over to that platform. So I hope that you will come over with me. It's going to be the best of social media. So like the best of Facebook, the best of YouTube, which is video creation, and also the best of like Amazon, Etsy, like a marketplace where you can sell things and sell items. So I'm excited about that. It can't come out soon enough because honestly, I've had it with Facebook. Facebook went back an entire year, just a week ago. They went back an entire year, found 2 videos that the fact checkers said had false information, and decided to penalize the page because of 2 posts that were posted a year ago. And they just decided to do this out of nowhere. And I'm pretty sure they're doing this to anybody. I think they're just going through anybody who's ever posted anything that they don't like and penalizing their page because of that reason. And I have since gone and deleted those posts, and Facebook still won't undo any of the restrictions that they've given us. Agree, interesting about Lighthouse, don't know about it. So really quick for Kelly, Lighthouse is going to be a new platform. It's created by believers. And I want to say it's for believers, but they're not going to censor anybody. So unless it's really bad content, obviously they would censor that. But they're not going to censor, from what I understand right now, it's going to be a free platform. And I'm sure there's going to be ways to advertise if you need to advertise, but it's going to be a free platform. They're not going to censor, and they would have probably already been out right now already, but they wanted to make sure that there weren't any possible way for big tech to have any interference with their platform. So they're making sure that everything is perfect so that when they do launch it, there's no problems. Because if you remember, they shut down Parler, and Parler is still shut down. So they're making it to where they are an independent platform, not dependent on any overlords that could tell them what they can and cannot do. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into our Bible reading. This is going to be Genesis 41. We're starting in Genesis 41, chapter 1. And this is where Joseph starts interpreting Pharaoh's dreams. So up to this point, Joseph has had his own dreams. Joseph has interpreted 2 dreams, and now he's going to interpret a dream for Pharaoh. So chapter 41, it says, after 2 whole years, Pharaoh dreamed, After 2 whole years, Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing by the Nile. And behold, there came up out of the Nile 7 cows, attractive and plump, and they fed on the reed grass. And behold, 7 other cows came up, ugly and thin, came up out of the Nile after them and stood by the other cows on the bank of the Nile. And the ugly, thin cows ate up the 7 attractive, plump cows, and Pharaoh woke up. So then he fell asleep again and dreamed a second time. And behold, 7 ears of grain, plump and good, were growing on one stalk. And behold, after them sprouted 7 ears that were thin and blighted by the east wind. And the thin ears swallowed up the 7 plump, full ears. So in the morning, Pharaoh's spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt and all the wise men. And Pharaoh told them his dreams, but there was none that could interpret them to Pharaoh. So you have to understand that in this region of the world, you know, I would venture to say almost in every region of the world at this point, dreams were considered an omen of things to come, and people were very much aware that dreams could foretell the future. So, you know, that's why he actually had magicians and wise men around to call upon to help interpret his dreams, because this was something that was considered a spiritual, like a spiritual, what am I trying to say? Principle, a spiritual principle, that you could have a dream and it could foretell the future. So then the chief cupbearer, the cupbearer that was in prison with Joseph, said to Pharaoh, I remember my offenses today. When Pharaoh was angry with his servants and put me and the chief baker in custody in the house of the captain of the guard, we dreamed on the same night, he and I, each having a dream with its own interpretation. A young Hebrew was there with us, a servant of the captain of the guard. When we told him, he interpreted our dreams to us, giving an interpretation to each man according to his dream. And as he interpreted to us, so it came about. So the dreams came true and the interpretation was correct. I was restored to my office and the baker was hanged. So this guy is like, oh, I forgot about Joseph, because Joseph said, when you go back to Pharaoh, remember me. But it's not until Pharaoh has this dream that the cupbearer says, oh, that's right. I was supposed to talk to Pharaoh about Joseph. Now, something about the Nile River. The Nile River was one of the things that the Egyptians worshipped. The Egyptians worshipped many gods, and they worshipped many things on earth, like on the earth, in the earth, animals, the Nile. They worshipped the Nile River because this was their source of sustenance, and therefore they worshipped it. Instead of worshiping the Creator who created the Nile, they worshipped the Nile. The ancient Egyptians believed Egypt to be the gift of the Nile River, their primary source of existence. In its inundation stage, they believed the river to be the embodiment of the god Hapi, a deity of fertility who sustained Egypt and provided for the people. This is important because later on, when we see the plagues that God sends to Egypt, it's very interesting because each of those plagues attack one of the many of the Egyptian gods. So it's important to note that the Egyptians worshipped the Nile in a form. So then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they quickly brought him out of the pit. And when he had shaved himself and changed his clothes, he came in before Pharaoh. Notice that he shaved himself. Most Hebrews in that day wore a beard. They were hairy. Egyptians had a problem with hair for some reason. They liked to shave every piece of hair off of their body. This was, I believe, started in Egypt. I don't know if it was going on prior to Egypt, which wouldn't have been that long before Egypt was formed, but for some reason Egyptians liked to shave every single hair. So Joseph changed his clothes, shaved himself, and came in before Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have had a dream, and there is no one who can interpret it. I have heard it said of you that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it. Joseph answered Pharaoh, it is not me. God will give Pharaoh a favorable answer. So off the bat, Joseph is giving credit, honor, and glory to God for interpreting the dream. So you see where Joseph's heart is. He is connected to God. And he knows that it doesn't come from him. He knows that it comes from God. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, behold, in my dream I was standing on the banks of the Nile. 7 cows, plump and attractive, came up out of the Nile and fed on the reed grass. 7 other cows came up after them, poor and very ugly and thin, such as I had never seen in all of the land of Egypt. And the thin, ugly cows ate up the first 7 plump cows. But when they had eaten them, no one would have known that they had eaten them, for they were still as ugly as the beginning. Then I awoke. I also saw in my dream 7 ears growing on one stalk, full and good. 7 ears, withered, thin and blighted by the east wind, sprouted up after them. And the thin ears swallowed up the 7 good ears, and I told it to the magicians, but there was no one who could explain it to me. Then Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dreams of Pharaoh are one. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dreams are one. The 7 lean and ugly cows that came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty ears blighted by the east wind are also 7 years of famine. It is as I told Pharaoh. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. There will come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt. But after them there will arise 7 years of famine. In all the plenty will be forgotten in the land of Egypt. I almost feel like this could be happening right now. Today. Just keep that in the back of your mind. The famine will consume the land, and the plenty will be unknown in the land by the reason of the famine that will follow. For it will be very severe. And the doubling of Pharaoh's dreams means that the thing is fixed by God and will shortly bring it about. God will shortly bring it about. And remember what I said in our last video about dreams, it's funny. Sometimes they're in an agricultural setting, and sometimes they will repeat themselves in the same or maybe a different manner. And you can almost rest assured that that is a prophetic or message from God that you'll want to think about. Now, therefore, let Pharaoh select a discerning and wise man and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh proceed to appoint overseers over the land and take 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt, during the 7 plentiful years. So take 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt and save it during the 7 plentiful years. And then let them gather all the food of these good years that are coming and store up grain under the authority of Pharaoh for food in the cities, and let them keep it. So you need to save a portion of the grain over these 7 years and store them up. So does that mean there comes a time when you need to store up? Does it mean that you're lacking faith if you're storing up goods? Listen to the Holy Spirit. There might come a time that you need to do that. That food shall be a reserve for the land against the 7 years of famine that are to occur in the land of Egypt. Sometimes God will tell you to store up for a famine that is coming, so that the land may not perish through the famine. God will always provide, but sometimes that providing will come through you or people. Verse 37, this proposal pleased Pharaoh and all his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, can we find a man like this in whom in whom is the Spirit of God? So even Pharaoh recognized that Joseph had the Spirit of God. So wait a minute. Joseph is recognized by Pharaoh as having the Spirit of God. I thought the Spirit of God was only poured out and around after the book of Acts. The Spirit of God was much alive and present even prior to the book of Acts. I can promise you that. So he says, in whom is the Spirit of God? And then Pharaoh said to Joseph, since God has shown you all this, there is none so discerning and wise as you are. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall order themselves as you command. Only as regards the throne will I be greater than you. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, see, I have set over you all the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh took his signet ring from his hand and put it on Joseph's hand, and clothed him in garments of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. And he made him ride in his second chariot, and they called out before him, bow the knee. Thus he set him over all the land of Egypt. Moreover, Pharaoh said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without your consent no one shall lift up hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. So you see, it's interesting because Joseph had these dreams. He knew he was going to be used by God, but he had to go through a process first. And that process was a little bit painful because first Joseph was falsely accused, and then he was falsely sentenced to this time in prison before God elevated him to this position. Sometimes we have to go through a molding period before that point of destiny comes where God brings about the purpose for our lives. So sometimes there's a crisis before the blessing. Just remember that. A crisis before the blessing. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zephanath-Paneah, and he gave him in marriage Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On. So Joseph went out over the land of Egypt. So Joseph was given the daughter of Potiphar. So Potiphar's daughter was given to Joseph in marriage. So Joseph is marrying an Egyptian woman, and Judah married a Canaanite woman. What is going on here? You have, off the bat, you have these unions with what we thought were, you know, you had the sons of Ham and Noah cursing Canaan. Okay? And it seems like Japheth and predominantly Shem were given the blessings. And then down the line a little bit, we have this union with Judah and Tamar, and now Joseph and Potiphar's daughter. Okay, verse 46, Joseph was 30 years old. So he's gone from 17 years old when he was sold into slavery, and now he's 30. So that means there was a time that he was in Potiphar's house, okay, or where he was with the first Pharaoh, I suppose. falsely accused, thrown into prison. So that's 13 years. 13 years. So he had to wait 13 years from the time that God gave him the dream and told him what he was going to do. It was 13 years before it came to pass. So sometimes God will give you a dream. Sometimes he'll give you a vision. Sometimes he'll reveal to you somehow the promise of what he's going to do in your life, and it could be years before it comes to pass. I know for me, from personal experience, that there was a time that God showed me, gave me a promise, and it was 7 years, that magic number 7 years before it was brought to pass. So you have to be patient with God's timing. It's not until God's timing intersects with his promise that we experience destiny. So Joseph was 30 years old when he entered the service of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went through all the land of Egypt. During the 7 plentiful years, the earth produced abundantly, and he gathered up all the food of these 7 years, which occurred in the land of Egypt, and put the food into the cities. He put in every city the food from the fields around it, and Joseph stored up grain in great abundance, like the sand of the sea, until he ceased to measure it, for it could not be measured. So there was such an abundance in Egypt at this time, they couldn't even count how much they were able to save. Before the year of famine came, 2 sons were born to Joseph. Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, bore them to him. So now Joseph is having 2 sons by this daughter of Potiphar, so an Egyptian woman. Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for he said, God has made me forget all my hardship and all my father's house. The name of the second he called Ephraim, for God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction. The 7 years of plenty that occurred in the land of Egypt came to an end, and the 7 years of famine began to come. As Joseph has said, there was famine in all the lands, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread. When all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. Pharaoh said to all the Egyptians, go to Joseph, and what he says to you, do. So when the famine had spread over all the land, Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold to the Egyptians, for the famine was so severe in the land of Egypt. Moreover, all the earth came to Egypt, to Joseph, to buy grain, because the famine was so severe over all the earth. So this famine was not just in Egypt. This famine was all over the surrounding area. And a lot of people were used to going down to Egypt, depending on Egypt to save them in these times, because Egypt was a thriving metropolis. It was a large city, and they were probably more advanced in technology. Therefore, and plus they had the Nile River, so there was always an abundance, and so a lot of people depended on Egypt for food. But particularly during this time, because there was a special famine that was going on all around. When Jacob learned that there was grain for now we're focusing on Jacob. We're going to Joseph's family. Jacob learned that there was grain for sale in Egypt. He said to his sons, why are you looking at each other? Why are you looking at one another? And he said, behold, I have heard there is grain for sale in Egypt. Go down and buy grain for us there, that we may live and not die. So he's basically saying to his sons, why are you looking at each other? Go down to Egypt and buy us some grain so that we don't die. So 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to buy the grain in Egypt. So 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to buy grain in Egypt. But Jacob did not send Benjamin, Joseph's brother, with his brothers, for he feared that harm might happen to him. So he's holding on to Benjamin like the last piece of Rachel that he has left, because that was her only other son. She passed giving birth to Benjamin. So he sends all the other brothers and he keeps Benjamin around because he doesn't want anything to happen to him. Plus, he's the youngest. Thus the sons of Israel came to buy among the others who came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. So all of the land of Canaan is experiencing this. Now Joseph was governor over the land, and he was the one who sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brothers came and bowed themselves before him with their faces to the ground. I can only imagine what Joseph was thinking. He's thinking, it's happening. Everything God showed me 13 years ago is happening. And he may have wavered in his faith here and there, although there's no indication that he did. But sometimes you're wondering, was this God's will for me to be away from my family for 13 years, be here in Egypt? And now his family is coming and bowing down to him, just like God said would happen. Joseph saw his brothers and recognized him. Amen, Kelly. God's word never returns void. Amen. That is the truth. If God said it, you can take it to the bank. Just because you don't see it happening in your time does not mean it's not going to happen. And sometimes we don't know how long. The angels came to Sarah and said, this time next year you'll have a son. So that was just a year that they had to wait, even though they had been waiting for a son because she couldn't get pregnant. You never know. Could be a year, could be 2 years, could be 5, 10, 20. You just have to be patient and wait on the Lord. Joseph saw his brothers and recognized them, but he treated them like strangers and spoke roughly to them. He's like, now's the opportunity that I've been waiting for. This is the moment that I've been waiting for. Amen, Kelly. Faith moves mountains. Where do you come from? He said. They said, from the land of Canaan to buy food. And Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. You see, like I said, Joseph is completely changed. First of all, he's not 17 anymore. He's 30. And so he looks different. And in Egypt, you typically have like makeup and jewelry and like a headpiece. All of this Egyptian garb that they would not recognize him. And Joseph remembered the dreams that he had dreamed of them. So this is literally happening, and he sees and remembers everything that God showed him. And he said to them, you are spies. You have come to see the nakedness of the land. So he's testing them. They said to him, no, my lord, your servants have come to buy food. We are all sons of one man. We are honest men. Your servants have never been spies. So Joseph says to them, no, it is the nakedness of the land that you have come to see. And they said, we, your servants, are 12 brothers, and the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is no more. So they're actually telling him that Benjamin's back home, and one of them is no more. But Joseph said to them, it is as I said to you, you are spies. By this shall you be tested. By the life of Pharaoh, you shall not go from this place unless your youngest brother comes here. Joseph is very smart, and he knows exactly what he's doing. Until your youngest brother comes here, send one of you, let him bring your brother, while you remain confined, that your words may be tested whether there is truth in you, or else by the life of Pharaoh, surely you are spies. and he put them all together in custody for 3 days. On the third day, Joseph said to them, so he puts them in custody for 3 days. And on the third day, Joseph said to them, now you know that's always a significant number in the Bible, the third day. Just keep that in mind. Kelly says, it is just amazing how God brings to light all that is hidden, even when the people don't know it. Amen, sister. He sure does. On the third day, Joseph said to them, do this and you will live, for I fear God. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers remain confined. One of your brothers remain confined where you are in custody, and let the rest go and carry grain for the famine of your households, and bring your youngest brother to me. So your words will be verified, and you shall not die. And they did so. They said to one another, in truth, we are guilty concerning our brother, in that we saw the distress of his soul when he begged us, and we did not listen. That is why this distress has come upon us. So you see what's happening here? They're being put into a situation where they're forced to see that they're reaping what they sowed. This is why this distress has come upon us. And Reuben, the one who tried to save him, says, did I not tell you not to sin against the boy? You see how situations that God brings about help you understand and experience what it is that you have done in the past. You know, that's what reaping and sowing is about. It helps us know and feel and experience and understand what it is that we did to someone else. Amen. We cannot hide anything from God. That's right, Kelly. And that's why God allows us to reap what we sow, so that we can learn and know what it feels like to be in that position of someone that we sinned against. So Reuben answered, remember, Reuben is the one that wanted to save him. He said, did I not tell you not to sin against the boy? But you did not listen. So now here comes a reckoning for his blood. Reuben is the oldest. He was the one that said, don't put a hand on the boy. You know, I'll come back and get him later. Yes, Kelly, repentance. Repentance. Amen. And now Reuben is trying to tell him, see, didn't I tell you not to touch him? So now here comes a reckoning for his blood. They did not know that Joseph understood them, for there was an interpreter between them. He turned away from them and wept. Joseph hears them talking amongst themselves, and there's an interpreter, and he turns away and starts weeping. And he returned to them and spoke to them. And he took Simon from them and bound him before their eyes. And Joseph gave orders to fill their bags with grain. So he takes Simon, puts him away, and he gave orders to fill their bags with grain and to replace every man's money in his sack and to give them provisions for the journey. And this was done for them. Then they loaded their donkeys with their grain and departed. And as one of them opened his sack to give his donkey fodder at the lodging place, he saw his money in the mouth of his sack. He said to his brothers, my money has been put back. Here it is in the mouth of my sack. At this their hearts failed them, and they turned trembling to one another, saying, what is this that God has done to us? They didn't know that Joseph put the money back into their sacks. When they came to Jacob their father in the land of Canaan, they told him all that happened to them, saying, the man, the Lord of the land, spoke roughly to us and took us to be spies of the land. But we said to him, we are honest men. We have never been spies. We are 12 brothers, sons of our father. One is no more, and the youngest is this day with our father in the land of Canaan. Then the man, the Lord of the land, said to us, by this I shall know that you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers with me, and take grain for the famine to your households, and go your way. Bring your youngest brother to me. Then I shall know that you are not spies, but honest men, and I will deliver your brother to you, and you shall trade in the land. Can only imagine what Jacob's thinking right now. As they emptied their sacks, behold, every man's bundle of money was in his sack. And when they and their father saw their bundles of money, they were afraid. And Jacob their father said, you have bereaved me of my children. Joseph is no more, and Simon is no more. And now you will take Benjamin? All this has come against me. Then Reuben said to his father, kill my 2 sons if I do not bring him back to you. You see, Reuben has also had a change of heart. You see how Reuben is trying to be the responsible one here? When Reuben had first sinned against his father when he slept with one of his father's, basically his wives, Bilhah or Zilpah, I can't remember which one, which were Rachel and Leah's handmaidens. He slept with one of them and was rebuked by his father, and now you see Reuben is like trying to do the right things. So Reuben says, kill 2 of my sons if I do not bring him back to you. But he said, my son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is the only one left. If harm should happen to him on the journey that you are to make, you would bring down to my gray hairs with sorrow to Sheol. Poor Jacob. All right, chapter 43. Now the famine was very severe in the land, and when they had eaten the grain that they had brought up from Egypt, their father said to them, go again and buy us a little food. But Judah, now we see Judah, said to him, the man solemnly warned us, saying, you shall not see my face unless your brother is with you. If you will send our brother with us, we will go down and buy food. But if you will not send him, we will not go down. For the man said to us, you shall not see my face unless your brother is with you. Israel said, why did you treat me so badly as to tell the man that you had another brother? In other words, you idiots, why did you tell him you had another brother? They replied, the man questioned us carefully about ourselves and our kindred, asking, is your father still alive? Do you have another brother? So that's a lie, because he did not ask them that. They willingly told him that, but now they're lying, trying to cover up. What we told him was an answer to these questions. Could we in any way know that he would say, bring your brother down? Like, how were we supposed to know he was going to say, bring your brother down? And Judah said to Israel his father, send the boy with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and you, and also our little ones. I will be a pledge of his safety. From my hand you shall require him. If I do not bring him back to you and set him before you, then let me bear the blame forever. If we had not delayed, we would have now returned twice. So now Judah's stepping up to the plate. Reuben had already tried to do this. Now Judah is saying, no, I need to be the one that's responsible for Benjamin, because I know what I did to Joseph. But it's funny, he says, if we had not delayed, we would have been back twice by now. Then their father Israel said to them, if it must be so, then do this. Take some of the choice fruits of the lands in your bags and carry a present down to the man. A little balm and a little honey, gum, myrrh, pistachio nuts, and almonds. Take double the money with you. Carry back with you the money that was returned in the mouth of your sacks. Perhaps it was an oversight. Take also your brother and arise and go again to the man. So Jacob is kind of doing here what he did with Esau. He sent gifts ahead of him to try to please him and kind of coax him before he saw Esau face to face. He's kind of doing the same thing here with the Pharaoh. Or, no, I'm sorry, this man under Pharaoh, which is Joseph. And he's saying, listen, send double the money, send all these gifts from our land, basically hoping that he finds favor. Take also your brother and arise, go again to the man. May God Almighty grant you mercy before the man. May he send back your other brother and Benjamin. And as for me, if I am bereaved of my children, then I am bereaved. At this point, he doesn't have a choice. There's famine in the land. They're running out of food. He doesn't really have a choice at this point. And he's like, if I die because my children are taken from me, so be it. So the men took this present, and they took double the money with them and Benjamin. They arose and went down to Egypt and stood before Joseph. When Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the steward of the house, bring the men into the house and slaughter an animal and make ready, for the men are to dine with me at noon. The man did just as Joseph told him and brought the men to Joseph's house. And the men were afraid because they were brought into Joseph's house, and they said, it is because of the money which was replaced in our sacks the first time that we are brought in, so that he may assault us and fall upon us to make us servants and seize our donkeys. So all sorts of bad things are running through their head. Again, kind of like what happened with Jacob and Esau. He's like, oh my gosh, he's going to kill me. He wants to fight me. But they have no idea what God's plan is. So they went up to the steward of Joseph's house and spoke with him at the door of the house and said, oh my Lord, we came down the first time to buy. So they're basically trying to explain themselves. We came down to buy food the first time, and when we came to the lodging place, we opened our sacks, and there was each man his money in the mouth of the sack, our money in full weight. So we have brought it again with us, and we have brought other money down with us to buy food. We do not know who put our money in our sacks. So they're just very nervous right now. And remember, they sold Joseph so that they could make money off of him. So they made money off of Joseph when they sold him as a slave. So now Joseph is testing them on many levels. He's testing them monetarily, where their hearts are. He's testing them with Benjamin as far as where their hearts are in that regard. So the man says, peace to you. Do not be afraid. Your God and the God of your father has put treasure in your sack for you. I received your money. Then he brought Simon out to them. And when the man had brought the men into Joseph's house and given them water, and they washed off their feet, and when they had given their donkeys fodder, they prepared the present for Joseph's coming at noon. For they heard that they should eat bread there. So now Joseph is going to come in. When Joseph came home, they brought into the house to him the present that they had with them. Because remember, they brought all this stuff from Canaan that Jacob told them to bring to Joseph. And they bowed down to him to the ground. And he inquired about their welfare and said, is your father well? The old man of whom you spoke, is he still alive? And they said, your servant our father is well. He is still alive. And they bowed their heads and prostrated themselves. And he lifted up his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son. And he said, is this your youngest brother, of whom you spoke to me? God be gracious to you, my son. Then Joseph hurried out, for his compassion grew warm for his brother, and he sought a place to weep. He had to walk away because he was uncontrollably crying. He had to step out of the room because his compassion for his brother was just overwhelming. Then he entered his chamber and he wept there. He couldn't hold back the tears. Then he washed his face and came out, and controlling himself, he said, "Serve the food." They served him by himself, and them by themselves, and the Egyptians who ate with them by themselves, because the Egyptians could not eat with the Hebrews. The Egyptians don't eat with Hebrews. For that is an abomination to the Egyptians to eat with Hebrews. Let me see here. Yeah, I think that's interesting that it was an abomination to the Egyptians to eat with the Hebrews. And they sat before him, the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. So there was a hierarchy, there was a way of doing things back then. And the men looked at one another in amazement. Portions were taken to them from Joseph's table, but Benjamin's portion was 5 times as much of theirs. So Joseph is showing favor to Benjamin. And they drank and were merry with him. Then he commanded the steward of his house. Now Joseph is really going to test his brothers. He commanded the steward of his house, "Fill the man's sacks with food, as much as they can carry, and put each man's money in the mouth of his sack, and put my cup, the silver cup, in the mouth of the sack of the youngest," so Benjamin, "with his money for the grain." And he did as Joseph told them. So now he's hiding his silver cup in Benjamin's sack. He's not done testing them. As soon as the morning was light, the men were sent away with their donkeys. They had gone only a short distance from the city. Now Joseph said to his steward, "Up and follow the men. And when you overtake them, say this to them: Why have you repaid evil for good?" He is really testing them now. "Why have you repaid evil for good? Is it not from this that my Lord drinks, and by this that he practices divination? You have done evil in doing this." Gina says, could it be that Benjamin got more because he wasn't there when Joseph was sold, or because he meant so much to his father? Yeah, I definitely believe it's because he meant so much to his father. Plus, this was Joseph's brother, like his full brother. All of his other brothers were half-brothers, but Joseph and Benjamin were full-blood brothers from Rachel and Jacob. So he favored Benjamin, and yes, because Benjamin was not a part of scheming to sell Joseph into slavery. Amen. When he overtook them, he spoke to them these words, and they said to him, "Why does my Lord speak such words as these? Far be it from your servants to do such a thing. Behold, the money that we found in the mouth of our sacks we brought back to you from the land of Canaan. How then would we still steal silver or gold from your Lord's house? Whichever of your servants is found with it shall die, and we will also be my Lord's servants." So basically they're saying, we would not do that. Whoever has it, he will die. "And we will also be my Lord's servants." He said, "Let it be as you say. He who is found with it shall be my servant, and the rest of you shall be innocent." Then each man quickly lowered his sack to the ground, and each man opened his sack, and he searched, beginning with the eldest and ending with the youngest. He was saving Benjamin's for last. And the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. Then they tore their clothes, and every man loaded his donkey, and they returned to the city. So now here they are going back to Egypt. When Judah and his brothers came to Joseph's house, he was still there. They fell before him to the ground, and Joseph said to them, "What deed is this that you have done? Do you not know that a man like me can indeed practice divination?" In other words, he's saying that I can know what you're doing, even though he planned it. And Judah stands up and says, "What shall we say to my Lord? What shall we speak? Or how can we clear ourselves? God has found out the guilt of your servants. Behold, we are my Lord's servants, both we and he also in whose hand the cup has been found." But he said, "Far be it from me that I should do so. Only the man in whose hand the cup was found shall be my servant." He's saying, don't worry, only the one who was guilty, which is Benjamin, only he shall be my servant. But as for you, go in peace to your father. See what he's doing? You guys are off the hook. It's okay. Benjamin's the only one who's going to be my servant and have to stay here in Egypt. Go in peace to your father. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go past chapter 17. Let's just keep going a little bit further. Let's go ahead all the way to we're going to read through the rest of chapter 44. Go ahead in peace to your father. It's just Benjamin who's going to suffer. Then Judah went up to him and said, "O my lord, please let your servant speak a word in my lord's ears, and let not your anger burn against your servant, for you are like Pharaoh himself. My lord asked his servants, saying, 'Have you a father or a brother?' And we said to my lord, 'We have a father, an old man, and a young brother, the child of his old age. His brother is dead, and he alone is left of his mother's children, and his father loves him.'" Here's Judah pleading on his behalf. "Then you said to your servants, 'Bring him down to me, that I may set my eyes on him.' We said to my lord, 'The boy cannot leave his father, for if he should leave his father would die.' Then you said to your servants, 'Unless your youngest brother comes down to you, you shall not see my face again.'" So basically he's saying we didn't want to bring him down because of what it would do to our father, but you said we had to, so we did. "When we went back to your servant my father, we told him the words of my lord. And when our father said, 'Go again, buy us a little food,' we said, 'We cannot go down. If our youngest brother goes with us, then we will not go down. For we cannot see the man's face unless our youngest brother is with us.' Then your servant my father said to us, 'You know that my wife bore me 2 sons.'" You see, it was just Jacob and Benjamin that were born of Rachel. "You know that my wife bore me 2 sons. One left me, and I said, 'Surely he has been torn to pieces,' and I have never seen him since. If you take this one from me and harm happens to him, you will bring down my gray hairs in evil to Sheol." Basically, you'll bring me down to the grave. "Now therefore, as soon as I come to your servant my father, and the boy is not with us, then, as his life is bound up in this boy's life, as soon as he sees that the boy is not with us, he will die." So he's telling Joseph what is going to happen to his father if Benjamin does not go back with them. "And your servants will bring down the gray hairs of your servant of our father to Sheol. For your servant became a pledge of safety for the boy to my father." Judah is saying, I pledged to my father to bring him back. "I said, 'If I do not bring him back to you, then I shall bear the blame of my father all my life. Now therefore, please let your servant remain instead of the boy.'" So now Judah is saying, let me do it. Let me stay instead of Benjamin. I will stay and be your servant. He's willing to step into the place of Benjamin for his father and for his brother. Let your servant remain instead of the boy as a servant to my lord, and let the boy go back to his brothers. For how can I go back to my father if the boy is not with me? I fear to see the evil that would find my father." So like we've been discussing, why did God choose Judah? Why was Judah chosen to bring the kings of Israel and ultimately the Messiah? And I always felt like the Messiah had to come through Judah, because Judah is the one that sold Jacob into slavery. That sold Joseph, I'm sorry, that not sold Jacob into slavery, that sold Joseph into slavery. That sold Joseph for money into Egypt. But we see here what's happening to Judah. He has had a change of heart. He has, like you said, he has repented. He has experienced the need to repent. He's broken. Judah has been broken, and now he's a new creation. He's a new person. Because of this. And it's all of these little things that Judah has had to experience that God felt that he was worthy. Sometimes you have to experience great trials to come out on the other side to be this new, matured, molded creation that God needs you to be. And that also instills a wisdom, That instills a wisdom. Obedience is more important than sacrifice to God. Amen. And so now we're really starting to see why, this change in Judah and why he was chosen. See, the Messiah was going to have to come through Judah. And what was the Messiah going to do? The Messiah was going to bring about the new covenant. The new covenant was restoring Israel, the northern tribe of Israel and the southern tribe of Judah that had broken up. This was the new covenant. The new covenant is in Jeremiah, where it says, "I will cause my laws to be written upon your heart." Okay? And it's the new covenant where he is bringing back together. Remember, the northern tribe of Israel, after they had broken up, there was the northern tribe of Israel and the southern tribe of Judah. And the southern tribe of Judah entailed the tribe of Judah, the tribe of Benjamin. That's interesting, right? The tribe of Benjamin was with Judah. And the tribe of was it Simon? Judah, Benjamin. Let me look at my map here. Yeah, Simeon, the tribe of Simon. So you had Simon, Judah, Benjamin, because they were all, well, it made sense that they were the southern tribe because they were all close together in that region, that southern region of Canaan. So you had the tribe of Simon, the tribe of Judah, and the tribe of Benjamin. Now the tribe of Levi was spread out into every single tribe. So you had a little bit of Levi. But for the most part, those were the three tribes that you had. All the other tribes were split off into what was then called the northern tribe of Israel, and that contained all of the other tribes. Okay, so that would actually be the northern, that would be 9 tribes in the northern country of Israel. And then the southern kingdom, Judah, were 3 tribes. Okay? And the new covenant was bringing them all back together. Okay? We're going to stop here. We're going to stop here at chapter 45. We're going to pick up next Shabbat on chapter 25 with the rest of what happens between Judah, Joseph, and Benjamin. And we'll continue. We will continue with our Genesis reading next Shabbat. Hopefully, I'm hoping Lighthouse will be out, but you know, hopefully I'll be doing some other videos in between now and next Shabbat, and we'll see what happens in the rest of this story, this family soap opera. God bless you guys. I'm glad some of you were able to make it. I know, and I apologize for the timing, the middle of the day, but you know, it is what it is. We gotta do it when we can do it. And you know, like I said, just pray for this page. Facebook, I'm trying to contact them. There's not really like a number that you can call. I'm trying to get in touch with somebody who can help me because they're not showing, like even this video is not really shown to anybody. None of the posts are really shown to anybody because they've restricted the page's reach. But God's willing, we'll keep going until the new platform comes out. We'll keep going here on Facebook, and then we'll switch over. So I'm excited for the new platform. So hope to see you next Shabbat. I hope to see you actually maybe a few times this week. And enjoy the rest of your day, and Shabbat Shalom.